had a big stigma around psychologists because I think, what do they know that I don't?
The fuck we're talking with you.
Exactly. You just don't think that you are able to reach out. As I said, I spoke to my psychologist and he put things into perspective for me. And then when I started thinking about things, and that's when I started to talk more, and then that flows on to family, and then suddenly having conversations, uncomfortable conversations, but you can't go through life thinking you're going to ever have easy conversations. You have to have those hard conversations with yourself first and then with family. So if you're at a point where I was literally thinking about crashing into a tree at 100 k's an hour, if you're ever at that point, then, find me on Facebook, find a psychologist in your area.
Invisible barriers can be physical, social, emotional, cognitive, or sensory. Or they can be the subtle ways society reacts, responds, or overlooks difference. They affect all of us in different ways across workplaces, schools, families, and communities. Each episode will hear lived experiences that challenge assumptions, spark empathy, and inspire action. My hope is simple, that by listening, we learn to recognize the barriers we can't always see and work together to remove them, one story at a time. This podcast has been recorded on the Gold Coast, also known as Kumbameri Country, part of the Yugambeh language region and home to the saltwater people who have cared for this land and shared their wisdom for over 20,000 years. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay my respect to elders past, present, and emerging. If you have a story to share or know someone who's breaking through invisible barriers in their own way, I would love to hear from you. Reach out via social media or email and join the conversation. Welcome to Invisible Barriers, where we celebrate courage, community, and change. In episode 2 of Invisible Barriers, I sit down with David, a dedicated electrician, business owner, and proud family man whose world was upended by a devastating workplace injury. Overnight, he went from running a thriving business to facing the unimaginable. Physical recovery, financial loss, and the heavy emotional toll of feeling like he had failed the people who depended on him. David opens up about his battle with mental health, the silence and shame that often surrounds mental well-being, and what it really looks like to rebuild your identity when everything familiar has been stripped away. His honesty is powerful, raw, and deeply human. Before we dive into David's story, I want to acknowledge a comment that I made which may come across differently from what I intended. During our conversation, I reflect on how the medical system, especially during the height of COVID, often had to operate under incredibly strict rules, including limiting visitors to just 1 hour a day. While these policies were designed to keep everyone safe, they had a profound impact on the psychological well-being of patients who were trying to heal without the consistent presence of their loved ones. I want to be clear that this reflection isn't aimed at the frontline healthcare workers themselves. Throughout COVID and long before it, doctors, nurses, allied health teams, and support staff have worked tirelessly, compassionately, and often under immense pressure. They showed up day after day to protect and care for their patients, going far beyond what anyone could reasonably expect. David's story recognizes a broader systemic reality, that sometimes the structure of healthcare, especially during crisis periods, can unintentionally make people feel like their body is treated as a vessel or a machine, rather than as a whole person carrying fear, exhaustion, and emotional needs. This conversation honors both truths, the dedication of medical professionals and the real emotional cost of the restrictions patients experience during that time. If you've ever questioned your worth during tough seasons or know someone navigating a life-changing injury, this episode will stay with you long after it ends. Please like and share this episode with your loved ones if you think it can help others. Please note that this episode includes swear words, suicidal ideation, and the consumption of alcohol. Without further ado, here's the episode.
Cool. So I'm sitting here with my cousin. This is very formal. As we know, we choose a drink. Can you tell us a little bit about what we're drinking today?
Sound check.
Oh, shit. Well, sound check and drink check.
Let's give it a go. Well, I wanted it to You know, you asked what my favourite drink was, and I don't want to be boring with beer, so let's do something fancy and go an espresso martini.
Mm-hmm.
And you've done well.
Yeah, I did really good. I'm sorry about that. I don't think I can see you on the camera. Is your camera on?
Hold on.
Where is your face?
I'm about to buzz right in. How about that?
Oh, wow. There we go.
Let's do another sound check.
Okay. Cheers.
Yeah. Espresso martini.
Mm. Pretty good. I'm not cutting anything out. I think it's fine as it is.
Let's go.
It's good because it's got vodka in it. It's going to slowly decay at my...
Look, I can't have many more because I might not be able to drive, so we've got to punch this out.
Yeah. We'll just have some snacks.
That's all right.
So can you give me a little bit of a background of yourself for people who don't know you?
Absolutely. So obviously you're my cousin in a massive family, which comes with its pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of pros, a lot of cons. But, 35, Brisbane, electrician, owned a business, had a very substantial workplace injury. Never did I think I'd ever be in that position where I would have to face that. But, yeah, basically got hit with running a business with a life-changing injury during COVID pandemic. So triple threat happened 5 years ago, and if you had spoken to me 5 years ago when it happened as to where I am now, it'd be a completely different story. So I'm sure we'll touch on it.
I just want to kind of explore a bit more about who you were before the accident, because it sounds like something that would be pretty life-changing.
It is, and like anything, like anyone that goes through something that's life-changing, you never think about it. You don't plan for it because you don't think it's going to happen to you. So I started a electrical contracting business when I was 27. Zero idea on how a business runs. Zero idea on really anything. When you're 27, you don't have too much life experience. So, look, I wasn't on a pathway to destruction by any means. I think I still had my head screwed on pretty good. But when you're that age, you probably don't have life experience yet.
Yeah.
And when you're faced with something like this, then you're forced to actually figure out who you are and what you're doing within this life. Because I was pretty much like standard young fella in my 20s. I'd like to drink and dabble in nights out and stuff like that.
Yeah. Typical Aussie. Happy, got good mates. You were able to do, like, what hobbies would you do on the weekends?
Exactly right. Like, you'd work for the weekend and then, call your mates up on a Thursday or Friday night, see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then, basically take it from there. But when you're sort of faced with what I went through, you got to figure out who you are pretty quickly. So it's been a journey. Yeah.
So you had a business that was relatively new?
Yeah, look, I mean, by all means, by all stretch of the means, if you're an electrician or a contractor in Brisbane, Gold Coast, it's quite a saturated market, and you're battling with a lot of guys that don't actually really know too much about how a business runs. Like me, like I thought naively when I started, I'd be starting the business and then a millionaire the next year.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of business owners might think like that, and if you don't, then good on you. But for me, I was like, I'm going to be successful and set my family up.
Yeah, lots of hope, lots of ambition. Did you say ego?
Yeah, 100%. Because you got to back yourself.
Yeah.
If you start a business, you have to back yourself. Otherwise, what are you doing in it? But I mean, realistically, for the first 3 years I was in business, I worked 7-day weeks for, majority of the year. I could probably count on one hand how many days I did have off. So.
And you put your hard yards in. You believe in yourself, but you were realistic.
It's your baby. You put everything into it. It's your business. It's something that you actually own, that you can put 100% of effort into. So, being 27 and
kind of part of your identity in a way. Like the success of it was a representation of who you are and what you're capable of.
exactly right. And for me, like I'm sure we'll touch on it as we go on, but a part of it, I don't own the business anymore. I had to liquidate, and with that liquidation, a massive part of my identity sort of fell out, where I felt like a gigantic failure. But yeah, we'll definitely touch on it as we go on.
Mm. So before the accident, is that what you'd like to call it?
Look, technically you can call it a workplace accident, like it happened at work.
Yeah.
If there's anything you're going to learn from this chat today, it's making sure that your view of yourself isn't 10 foot tall and bulletproof, as I thought I was.
You're pretty tall.
I am tall.
How tall are you?
6'5". So up there in the height scale, but I've met guys that are bloody 7'1" and above. So I don't think I'm that tall, to be honest. But I've always been a pretty athletic person growing up. I've always been involved with sport. Growing up, I was always in sports, and that sort of marries on into your adult life, where you think as I said, you're bulletproof.
And your masculinity is in what your body can do, I guess. Like being an electrician, everything is to do with what you physically are capable of.
Yeah, and look, you wear it as a bit of armour as well. Like for me, like working 7-day weeks and big days was a sign of success.
Yeah.
And you learn pretty quickly, like success doesn't mean big hours and big money. It means being close to your family and having that good relationship with your family, your wife, your kids. That's success to me now. But when you're 27 and you're starting a business, that's all I focused on. And I was literally working 12-hour days for 3 years straight, 7 days a week. Because I wanted, I guess looking at it now, it's like you do want that image of, oh wow, he's successful, or he's doing well, and you focus more on what other people expect of you rather than how you see yourself.
Yeah.
And I guess you've got to experience. Well, you don't have to, but if you can figure it out before you get to the point I did, you don't have to go through a hard time to sort of get to know yourself in a better sense.
It's a very public thing, I guess, in running a business, because we do put things on social media now as well. Did that play into it a little bit?
Social media is, you've probably heard 100 times over, it's a highlight reel. And you're only ever going to put on stuff that you want people to see. Like we're talking about families, we're talking about partners where they don't see the fights, they don't see the crime, they don't see the arguments. But being realistic, that happens on a not daily, but regular basis.
Yeah, it's intertwined with the good. That's what makes things good.
Exactly, yin and yang, right? Like you've got to experience the bad for the good, and vice versa. But yeah, that was part of where I was back then. It's not like I was going out of my way to show people I was running a business, but I definitely had the belief that I could run a business, and I still do, and I'm still never going to rule that out. But if I was ever to start a business in the near future, it's going to be something that I'm 100% dedicated to, because I'm an electrician. I've been working in the electrical field since I was 15. I know what I'm doing. I'm good at it.
Yeah.
Is it a passion? Probably not. I just know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that 100% dedication and focus to, basically put yourself on the line to want to earn that money, if you don't have that dedication where you go, right, I'm going to start a business, but I'm not 100% in myself, it's going to reflect on what you do.
So when you say like running a business is 100% of things, does that not leave a lot of room for other things in life?
Leaves nothing. So, my wife, Laura, who is an absolute godsend for me, but when I was running my business, I was away more than I was home. So, it's 52 weeks in a year, and I was probably away for over 30 of them. And in that time, you don't grow away. Hopefully you don't grow apart from your partner, but it happens, definitely. And like in the back of my mind, I knew what I was sacrificing to get to the larger goal.
Yeah.
But going through 7 years of that, I look back and I think that time sacrificed could have been spent with family. And that's more valuable than any dollar figure that I ever brought in. So, if there's a lot of stuff that we talk about in this podcast alone, it's like it's always going to be the money's not everything.
Yeah.
The time you spend with your family or your friends or your loved ones is going to be second to none, for sure.
Yeah. So do you want to move into, I guess, something pretty traumatic that made you realise that quick smart?
Yeah, look, we'll touch on the injury.
Yeah.
Going back, like this happened in 2020.
Yeah.
And, I do want to make a point, like, I think about it constantly, a battle with myself, is what was harder for me was it the injury or was it the business failure? Because they're both as hard, in my opinion. And it's something I've probably never spoken about with people. It's like it's like a massive chink in the armour when you say, "Oh, I started a business and it actually didn't work out."
Yeah.
So we'll get into that, but yeah. Look, touching on the injury, like I was not well known, but I was making my name in the solar industry in Brisbane, and was installing a solar system on a roof on a 2-story. It was actually 2.5 stories, 7.5 meters up. Installing solar panels, and I was coming off the roof as it had started raining. And as I was coming off the roof, it started raining, and I slipped off the roof and fell 7 meters straight onto a driveway, and basically broke all the bones in my feet. I snapped my left wrist, really messed up my back. How are we for swearing on this? I fucked myself up. I fucked myself up.
Yeah.
Proper. Technical term. Look it up in the dictionary if you need. But, yeah, it wasn't good. So, yeah, basically I fell 7 meters. I knew it instantly. And as soon as I hit the floor, I first words out of my mouth was call the ambulance.
Yeah.
And, ambulance came, put me on the green whistle. It literally didn't do anything. They gave me a second green whistle, didn't do anything. And then when I got to the hospital, I still remember the surgeon in the emergency room was like, "What's your pain level?" And I was like, "It's a fucking 10, mate. Like, yeah. I can't deal with this." And then they basically just smacked me with a shitload of ketamine. And then that's when it was like, "Oh, fuck, okay, now we're good." And, by that time, my mum and my wife had come to the hospital to see how bad it was. They've got the phone calls. And I come out of the X-ray or the MRI. It's something that still sticks with me, but I remember coming out with the MRI and the surgeon, not surgeon, but the guy that did the photos. He was like, "You've done a fucking good job, mate." That's what he said. Like, "You've done a fucking good job."
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm back again.
That's my ego. So I was, like, it's fine. Like, I've done a great job. And from there, that's when the recovery process started. But I want to make the point, and everyone went through the COVID era in their own way.
Yeah.
And everyone's had a pretty terrible time during that period, no doubt. But for me, I hurt myself. I was running a business, and a week later is when the lockdown started. So, like, I didn't know what the fuck. Like, I was running a business. Another thing, if for anyone listening, if you're running a business or just in general, I didn't have the right insurance. So when you're a contractor, you have workers' insurance, but there's also the director's insurance, which I never got told about, which in part also I should have followed up on, but, live and learn. If you don't know, you don't know.
I don't know.
So I didn't know about it. So I didn't get any help whatsoever. No coverage with insurance, no payouts. It was basically you fucked yourself up. You've got a permanent disability for life. And by the way, we're going into lockdown. So fucking you're on your own. So pretty much from like the next day onwards, even when I was off my head on ketamine and stuff like that, I still had to try and figure out how I was going to run my business. And I sort of look back on those days. It's one of those fork in the road moments where, hindsight's a fucking great thing. But if I could go back in time, I would have shut my business down right there and then.
Yeah.
Because, trying to fucking run a business when you are literally disabled, it's not an easy thing. But pride, ego takes over.
Well, the business was doing well. It was thriving.
Huh?
So in that sense, why would you?
And you're exactly right. Like the business wasn't doing bad. We were above margins. We were in profit. But, you come off something like that where you've got a permanent disability with a pandemic, and this is another thing where I'm not going to touch on COVID too much because it's such a hot topic. But the one thing that really really stuck with me during the COVID pandemic, which some people might not remember, is we were instantly put into two groups, which was essential and non-essential. And if you are someone that's struggling with mental health problems and you get isolated from society and you get told you're a non-essential person, people could still be having problems now. Who knows? But that sort of things never sat well with me at all. Luckily for me that we were put into essential. So from there, I had to basically put on staff, a lot of staff. And if you know something about business, if you go too big too quick, it's not a good thing. So if you grow too big too quick, then you are battling with, physio appointments. You're literally in a hospital bed. I was in a hospital for a month.
Going through, first of all, probably recovering-ish, then having appointments. You're in a hospital.
Yeah.
Where you're working up every second.
In a hospital, I had to get my wrist operated on, which, wasn't too bad. I snapped my wrist in half because I fell down and basically landed on my feet. So to give you a bit of a picture, it was raining. I slipped, fell on my ass, was sliding down the roof, and sort of luckily had the presence of mind to, as I came off the roof, to flip over onto my stomach. And as I did, I grabbed the gutter. And as I've done that, it's taken me from going down on an angle to a pin drop. So I've pinned right down and landed directly on my feet onto a driveway, and then instantly gone from my feet to my wrist, and then snapped my wrist.
Yeah.
And then it sort of didn't click at the start because you're in shock.
Yeah.
But I knew instantly. And so then I've sort of hit the ground and I've gone to get up, and I put my weight on my left hand, and I've gone, I can't even put any weight on that. And then pretty much from there, that's when the pain kicked in, and I was like, holy fuck, this is bad. But yeah, so, the recovery process in the hospital was not easy.
But your mind was on your business because that's your priority, not yourself, not your body.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're instantly into how quality control.
Quality control. I've got staff. I've got people I got to feed.
Yeah.
And then that's the other thing you got to deal with, right? Like here I am, I'm literally permanently disabled from what had happened to me. And the only thing I could actually think about was what work I could bring in. I was getting phone calls the next day in hospital when I was high on ketamine, and I was still trying to organise jobs. And I think back to that time now, and I just think, fuck, you know, it's a completely different person to where I am now.
It doesn't happen overnight. You don't automatically go like, I prioritize myself and my family. You're still 27.
Well, you don't go to work thinking that's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
You know, you go to work thinking you're going to make your money, come home, just do your normal thing, have dinner, wake up, rinse, repeat.
Yeah. Oopsies, I fell over.
Oopsies, I fell
Life
over.
goes on.
Now I'm in hospital. Now my workers are saying, what the fuck do we do? Now I'm saying that as well.
And clients probably.
Exactly right. Well, I mean, you know, perfect example. I didn't even finish the install. The client was home. Client was home when I did that. They saw me on the driveway crying or, you know, screaming out in pain. And it's just like, oh, well, we're not going to get our solar finished today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you
what
know.
An inconvenience.
Yeah, what an inconvenience. Meanwhile, I'm getting whisked away in an ambulance.
Was the loudest voice the people around you, did you feel, or was it you?
Thinking, me.
Yeah.
I've always been my harshest critic.
Yeah.
And, you know, what goes on in my head every day is the outside world will never see, because, you know, this isn't just speaking for blokes in general, but this is speaking for everyone. Like, you know, if you just everyday life, you're always thinking, what can I do? Like, how can I get better? What can I do to get better? And that was my first thing. Like, it was never about my own well-being. It was like, what am I going to do to keep this business flowing? And from that, like, I put staff on. As I said, hindsight, fucking great thing, but I put staff on that I couldn't even manage. Like, I said, I was in hospital for a month. I was on ketamine drips. I was on, you know, trying to do surgery. So the surgery on my feet was 8 hours each day. I got a plate in each foot with 12 screws. I got a plate in my wrist with like 6 screws. My back is just completely shot. It's just one of those things where I literally had to crawl to learn to walk again. So you go back to the bare bones of what you are as a person. You go back to being an infant. You got to literally learn to crawl again.
You got to lean on people for the first time in probably, if you were 27, for probably 25 years. That you've let yourself actually lean on anybody else, I'm guessing, as a man.
As a man. Look, this chat will definitely not go into like a gender sort of thing, but there is, from first-hand experience, like there's a big ownership on a man to need to provide, and as soon as that was stripped from me, like it was like I may as well be a baby. That's how bad it was.
That's how you felt.
That's how it felt.
Yeah.
Might not have reflected that in real life. Like, I'm sure my wife Laura would say, like, she had it under control. Like, she was obviously like, what the hell is going on? And I can't speak highly of my wife Laura. You know, like, it really tested the relationship where, you know, public hospitals are fantastic. I got great care. But, like, the nurses, I couldn't go to the toilet, so I had to use a bedpan. And this is getting a bit graphic, but I had to use a bedpan, and, you know, you obviously do your business, and they'd come in, look after you, but they'd never clean you properly. And going back to COVID era, I could only ever see Laura for an hour. So I'd be in isolation in this hospital room for 23 hours. And she'd come in at like 7 o'clock after she'd finished work. And like, it'd pretty much be the first thing I'd do is be like, can you please wipe my ass? Like, that's literally what it was like. Yeah. Because the nurses wouldn't look after you properly. Well, it's not that they wouldn't look after you properly.
It just didn't happen.
It just didn't happen. Like, it was just like, you just felt dirty. And
that's your dignity. That's basic dignity. Human need is to feel some kind of dignity.
Some kind of dignity, some kind of control, self-control, which you just didn't have. Yeah. You know, I didn't have at all. And so, you know, she'd come from work and pretty much roll me over and get gloves on and, you know, do what she had to do with no second thoughts. So, you know, going back to things that you want to learn, the podcasts are always good for educational purposes. And, make sure you've got the right people behind you, because
Yeah.
once you've got control of yourself, it's the people behind you that take the next rung of the ladder, and it's extremely important.
Mm.
Yeah.
It is. I can't even, like, alone, like you were saying, to have an injury like that, and then COVID times where no one had ever experienced a lockdown where, when the worst possible thing that could happen to you, and you're going through something. We have an auntie that experienced a lot during that time too, and I remember her biggest thing was, I don't even give a shit about cancer. I don't give a shit about any of that. It was that COVID stopped me from seeing my family, and my family from seeing me, because of the fear of it, of something invisible that had nothing to do with the pain I'm in anyway.
Yeah.
Like, on top of it.
And it comes back to something I touched on before, where there's no amount of dollar value, there's no amount of hard work you've spent trying to build something up. The greatest thing that you can have within your lifetime is human connection, some form of connection. And I'm very aware of what our auntie Berna went through, because we shared that bond with. She was going through her stuff, I was going through my stuff, and we got on very well. Beside that, like, she was my bookkeeper for my business, so I've always had a very special relationship with her. But yeah, it's like, she was going through stage 4 cancer, she was dying, and during that time, once again, non-essential people couldn't come in and see her.
Yeah.
And you get told that you're a non-essential human being, in my opinion, is not right. I think it is, and I think looking back on that, you could have worded it better. You could have done anything better than to say you're a non-essential person, because I experienced it firsthand with mental health problems, and people in hospital finding out they're a non-essential person, and family members couldn't come and see them because they're a non-essential. And maybe, like, for us, when it first started, my mum and dad were obviously there every day, and then my brother and sister were there as well, and then eventually they scaled it back to just one person for 1 hour a day. So for 23 hours a day, if you're going through the worst time of your life, you basically had to just cop it on the chin. It was tough, but
it's a reflection of the medical industry in a way, that they don't. They're not able, whatever, but they see your body as a vessel. They see it as a machine. They don't necessarily understand that your mind is driving 90% of recovery.
I think they look at it from a corporate level. They don't look at it from an individual level. So the hospitals have to run. Hospitals have to put themselves first, and I fully understand that. But on an individual level, so many of us were just obviously scratching our heads going, what is going on? Like, this is, like,
I need my people.
I need my people. I need my tribe.
Yeah. To recover.
I need my tribe.
I don't give a shit about your medicine.
Yeah.
Or your operations. I need my wife, my mum, or my dad.
My mum, my dad, like, they're there to drop everything and help you. Whereas you get a check-in every hour from a nurse staff, and then from the rest, like, it's confinement. So, like, from that sense, if you had spoken to me 5 years ago, probably would have been podcast done. Like, that was a terrible experience. I was an idiot. Should have handled things a lot better. Should have had insurances better. But then, obviously, from the knock-on effect of that was a business that I had to try and keep afloat. And when you're trying to keep a business afloat when you're trying to walk, it's not an easy thing to go through. And, by the end of it, which we can touch on, we can go through a little bit more, but by the end of it, like, I had labelled myself a failure. Because I couldn't keep the business alive. It just got to a point where tax bill had grown out, employees were getting annoyed. I was trying to deal with my stuff while trying to run a business. If you don't put 100% into a business, it doesn't grow. And, unfortunately, I found out the hard way. it is what it is. But through that, like, everything is a positive. Everything is a lesson. You can't go through and think, why is everything against me? You have to sort of ask, what is this happening for? And if it didn't happen, I probably want to be the person I am today. And the person I am today is much better than the person I was 5 years ago. So I'm grateful for the experience. It was hard. Should I have learnt it? Did I deserve it? Probably not. But
no one does.
No one deserves that. No. But if you can get to that point where you can be grateful that something like that happened to you, then it's only a net positive in my mind.
Yeah.
So,
And to describe yourself as a failure at that point in time would have been something that maybe we wouldn't have been able to see the future and go, well, there's opportunities for anything else. Because at that point, you're like, well, this is what I am. That's it.
Oh, I was completely absorbed in the business, as any business owner knows. And once it started going downhill, and when a business goes downhill, it goes downhill very fast. You start getting pressure from the ATO, you start getting pressure from employees, from family members, from, you got mouths to feed. And, by the end of it, like, to put it into perspective, by the end of my business, I had to go get a endoscopy done in my stomach because I had stress ulcers in my stomach, and I was throwing up in the shower nearly every morning because I knew I had to provide for staff. At one point I had over 10 staff, and you've got $15,000 to $20,000 in wages going out every morning or every week, and the money coming in isn't sustaining that. And so when that starts falling behind, plus you've got to pay super, you've got to pay just all of the other extras, tax, everything like that, man, it's a snowball effect, and by the end it's an avalanche. It's horrible.
Yeah.
And I've actually never really spoken about the business failure side of things, because it's a chink in the armor, it's a dent in the armor. But I'm happy to talk about it. It is what it is. I can't change it. So if you talk about it and you get to a point where I was, it might shift your perspective, and you'll be able to come out of this and think, fuck, I can get through it. It's not as bad as it seems.
Could even people listening or who may be going through, with just an injury aside, the failure of a business, or even just something, I don't want to use the word failure because
you never want to get to that point in your head where when you are a failure, because as we know in this country, not just with men but especially with men, like there's a high suicide rate. And to say that I wasn't almost that statistic, I'd be lying to myself. I'd be lying to this podcast. And so that's why I'm fine to talk about it, because I found it within myself that, I went to that edge. Everything's like a pendulum, right? So you can swing to the worst side of things. And if you get to the end of that pendulum swing where you're at the worst and you come through, then if you sort of realise you're on a correction where you're coming back to the good side, which is where I'm now, then you'll be able to get through it. And that the catalyst for that for me was having a kid. But yeah, that's something we can touch on. Like I could talk about my daughter for the next 3 episodes if you want. She's just the greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
I just wanted to for someone who's maybe going through purely just that feeling of a business failing and it being your baby, like you said, and it being 100% of potentially who you are and everything you thought, all of that future that you saw, the money you invested, the people that you involved and affected by. What would you say to someone who may be on the brink of having to say, I'm going to pull out now?
It's a good question. And I scale it back. It doesn't involve anyone else but yourself. And so if there's one thing that I've taught myself, there's two principles that I live by now, and one of them is very stoic focused in that you can only control what you can control, right? So if you are in traffic, you can't control the traffic, you can't control the traffic lights, you can't control how the person next to you drives. You can only control how you react to the situation. Okay? And we get lost in that a lot, especially now with social media. You get stuck in collective thought, but with collective thought, there's over 7 billion people in the world, and there's over 7 billion people that think of how life and everything should run.
Yeah.
So when you think about it like that, it's not a big thing. It's not a important thing.
Yeah.
What you can focus on is how you control yourself
in that second, in that moment.
So, and look, I'm perfect by no means. I still have outbursts, but I very much follow the stoic principles of if I'm in that situation where, you know, it's shitty traffic or your fucking order's wrong for Macca's, it's nothing you can control. You can only control how you react to the situation. So if we started thinking like that more, fuck, the world would be a much easier place. The second thing that I always follow is, and look, we'll touch on this as well. The mind leads. If the mind doesn't lead, nothing else follows. You have to be so in tune with how you are with yourself. If you aren't, nothing else follows, and I can't stress that point enough. And so for me, when I think about it, I had gone through this injury. I basically gone through the injury, business had failed, and by the end of it all, had stomach ulcers. I was throwing up every day. I was thinking, fuck, it can't be much worse. I've just gone through this 4-year period of like the worst shit. It's only ever going to get worse for me. And that's when I was right on the brink. And, for blokes themselves, like I don't want to touch too much on the details of it, but when I tell you I was almost a statistic of male suicide, I was right there.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff when you think about it, I had 3 scenarios that I think about a lot when I thought about those times where, there was a certain tree that I used to think about, this would be the perfect tree to crash into, or things like that. And when you get to that point, you're right on a knife's edge. And so I got to that point, and I remember thinking, like, if I was to do this at my house, my wife was pregnant at the time, I'm going to have a pregnant wife find her deceased husband. And what's that going to do for the rest of her life? Like, that's just passing on. And this is not to pass down on people that have, ended their lives or anything like that. But that was something that I thought about a lot, is that my wife's going to come home and see me dead, pregnant. And so when I got to that point, that's when I immediately reached out to help. And I saw a psychologist. His name is Stan Steedle in Brisbane, great psychologist. And I remember when I spoke to him, this was a Zoom call, and I said, "How you going, mate?" And then I cried for an hour on the call. I literally cried the whole time.
Yeah.
And for 2 hours after that call, I cried. It was like I needed that.
Yeah.
I needed that cry. And then basically after that, that's when I was like, fuck, I can't be in this situation anymore. And so that's when, and in the background as well, like stuff with my family, like I still remember my family reaching out and going, "We want you here. Like, we can see you struggling. We want you here. You got to stay here." And when your family starts saying that, you're like, fuck, like.
Yeah, people can see it now.
People can see it now.
You're trying to hide it for that long.
Trying to hide it.
Be what they need you to be.
And something that sticks out is my sister. She said, "We just want the old David back." She said that. And I was like, what's the old David? Like, the old David hasn't been here for 5 years. So that's when, like, I really knuckled down, and I was like, fuck, I gotta change my life. Like,
it was the comments of others that made, like, that. Did that pull you out of, like, when you have suicidal ideation, people believe that being no longer here is actually better for everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like, look what I'm dragging my wife into. I'm dragging my wife into a fucking situation where we've got no money. Like, when you liquidate a business, it's ruthless. It's brutal. Like, I had savings, I had shares, I had equipment under the house. It's gone. It's all gone. They took every single penny from me that they could take, and I was left with nothing. And so, like, that's when I was right on the knife's edge, when I was like, fuck, literally have nothing left. And so I'm just a burden. That's what you come to. I'm a failure. I'm a burden. I was ready to punch that ticket and just go.
Yeah.
And I was like...
One of the only thoughts was, like, my wife found my body, but it wasn't about you not being here anymore. It was about being a burden, even though you've left.
You're just passing that on. You're just passing that on to her. And, you know, aside from that, she was pregnant, and I hadn't even met my daughter yet. You know, like, I hadn't met my daughter yet, and so I'm thinking, like, in my head, I'm thinking, wife's going to find a dead husband, daughter's not even going to know who her dad was. And so, you know, stuck it out, as you know, hopefully a lot of people do. And then my daughter was born, and it's just like, the flash of colours just burst through. You're just like, holy fuck, like, your daughter comes out. Like, I saw my daughter get born, held her when she came out. She didn't even cry.
And she looks exactly like you.
Exactly like me.
She's a fucking...
And she's fucking psycho. She's a complete and utter lunatic. But she came out, and I was just like, holy fuck, like, this is what I was going to throw away.
Yeah.
This is what I was going to leave this world for, to satisfy my own needs when my daughter needs me. And then from there, like, she was born 8th of June 2024. And then from that moment forward, I literally have said to myself every day, like, you cannot show your daughter what you were. It's going to be what you're going to become. And from that point onwards, like, I've from the start of the year, I've lost 27 kilos. I work my ass off. Every bit of money goes towards her and the wife. But, you know, like, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. But for a lot of people, they don't see it.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully conversations like this with yourself bring that out. And, you know, unfortunately for me, at this point in time, like, I'm 35. If you fail early in your life and you completely write your life off at a certain age, like, what are you doing? You can't think like that, because who knows how old you're going to live for. So if I was to write my life off right now at 35 and I live till I'm 80, like, that gap between 35 and 80, am I just going to sit there and blame what happened to me when I was younger? There's no fucking way.
Because the only person that can change anything that comes in the future is yourself.
Exactly really. Right. And that's the thing. That's one thing I want to stress. Like, you have to be selfish. You have to be selfish, at least for a little bit, where you have to understand who you are. You have to understand who you are as a person and what you're doing here. Because, as I said, we go back to a collective thought. Everyone has a collective thought on what they're doing, what they think is right. But there's 7 billion of us, and there's 7 billion of us that have a different opinion on how things are run, how things should run. So if you just take that 7 billion and put it onto yourself, and then eventually spread it out to your family, and then spread it out to who matters. Because, listen, I'm 35 now. When I was 25, I had fucking 600 Facebook friends, and I thought that was important. And I thought the fucking likes on my Facebook posts were important. And then the people that you thought were going to be there when you were 35, suddenly the fucking 90% of them are gone, right? So it's like, okay, well, fucking, that doesn't matter. All that matters is, one, who you are. And as soon as you're comfortable with who you are, then two, you can project that onto your family, and then your family becomes who you are, and then you move forward. And that's basically how I live my life. I understand the terrible things that are happening in the world. You know, there's strong strong things with Gaza and all that, and I'm not going to touch on that. And it's horrific, but you know, I know
I can't control it.
I can't control that.
That's none of that. We're exposed to it.
And to touch on that, you know, once you put your phone down, you're not seeing that. All you're seeing is what you come home to, right?
Fucking crazy daughter.
My crazy daughter, who me and my wife, we literally say to each other every day, "What the fuck have we done?" She is just a complete cyclone. But I wouldn't have it any other way because she's in my world. She did. She 100% did. My wife and my daughter saved my life, and my parents. When all the injury went down, you know, like my dad was involved with the business. He took a massive financial hit, worse than anyone out of any of us, and you know, he didn't even blink an eyelid. He just took it on the chin. It fucking hurt him long term. And I've seen families break up for fucking way less. But my old man, the fucking stalwart that he is, he just took it on the chin and accepted that this was part of his family. And we've grown since. So I really can't stress that enough with talking to him. It's like if you exclude your family or you cut your family off, it's like who are you left with? You're left with yourself. And then if you don't have control of who you are or what you're doing with yourself, then you get so caught up in what other people are doing. It's like, why?
Yeah.
What fucking why? Like, just focus on yourself and what you can control, and you know, things grow from there. It's that important. Just like this drink of espresso martini.
Well, it looks like Coke. You know what? It's tasty. I got the good coffee.
It's pretty good.
Thanks. Vodka does taste good when it's after a big tap.
It is. The future changes. You know, I didn't expect myself to go through what I did, and I did. And part of that is learning from my mistakes and failures and growing into a different person. So, you know, if you're at a stage where you're stagnant or you're thinking, fuck, like, what am I even doing right now? Just keep hammering away. Like, don't give up. That's all I can say. Like, just understand, like, it's just a moment in time. And that moment in time is going to take you on the direction that you're supposed to be. And if you look at it from that point of view,
the stoic
point of view, like it's imagine a life where everything was fantastic, perfect. Tell me someone that's been through that. And to scale that back to a personal level with family, right? When you're young, you go spend your first 18 years with your family, and then you get older, and then you're like, fuck, I can't wait to get out of home. And then when you come back in your 30s and you come back and you see your mum or you see your parents and you see that they're older, and then you're like, now you've got a bit more maturity, and you're like, shit, like, it's actually fucking awesome hanging out with my parents. I try to do as much as I can with my family, because once they're gone, you'll be fucking thinking, oh, I miss those annoying calls. I miss those fucking annoying messages. And they're not annoying anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a complete perception of what you're thinking at the time. And, you know, just quickly, like, going back to that, like, you know, I had 600-700 friends on Facebook. Not that Facebook's a marker for anything.
It was at the time. It literally was a metric.
It was a metric.
Yeah.
It was a metric, and likes was a metric. And now that I'm 35, and you know, like 99%.
Mum didn't like my posts.
My friend that I thought would like it, but you know, like 95 to 90% of the people from when I was 25 to 35, 10 years span, they're just gone. Right? It's not like they're gone, but like they're just out of that window.
Yeah, there's not enough space for quality over quantity.
Exactly right. So, you know, just hammer down who's important to you, and use that time as much as you can, because you don't know. Like, going back to the injury, something that sticks with me constantly is I fell 7 meters from this roof, and by all means, if I fell the wrong way, I'd be dead. And something that happened pretty shortly after was the apprentice had actually fallen from a height less than that, half of that, and he just fell the wrong way and died. And so, if you don't look at those signs where you take those sort of moments and you go, right, well, it happened, it could have happened for a reason. If you believe that things happen for a reason, maybe this happened for me, that I've been able to come on here and share this with you. But, if it had gone the wrong way, maybe this conversation would never happen.
If someone is listening to this, has been shared this very minor, shared this episode and is going through, and maybe they're in a hospital bed, maybe they're in the third year after an injury or something that they never thought would happen to them, what would you want them to know?
First of all, seek help. You're not alone. As much as you think you are alone, you never are. There's always help. For me, I never thought I'd call a psychologist. Psychologist call ended up saving my life, I think. He put things into perspective. And
can I ask what was the steps to that if someone didn't know how to reach a psychologist?
Yeah, so, as much as we were talking about the government with their bad things, they do great things, which is, they do 10, I think, free mental health sessions. So you can apply to have, look, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's 5 to 10 free mental health sessions. You can call a psychologist. I had a big stigma around psychologists because I think, what do they know that I don't?
The fuck we're talking will do.
Exactly right. Yeah. You just don't think that you are able to reach out. But as I said, I spoke to my psychologist and he put things into perspective for me. And, and then when I started thinking about things, and that's when I started to talk more, and then that flows on to family, and then suddenly having conversations, uncomfortable conversations, but you can't go through life thinking you're going to ever have easy conversations. You have to have those hard conversations with yourself first and then with family. So if you're at a point where I was literally thinking about crashing into a tree at 100 k's an hour, if you're ever at that point, then, find me on Facebook, find a psychologist in your area.
I've only got 2 friends now.
Well, as I keep saying, I'll probably delete you soon. No, I'm not going to delete you. Yeah, I didn't. No, I should say that. But there's help. There's help everywhere.
You did start a podcast. Is it still available for people to listen to?
No, because I started a podcast that was very similar to this, and I'm stoked you're doing this, and I'm hopeful, and I'm sure it'll blow up into something huge.
I don't give a shit. Even if our family listen to it, it's not. Yeah, but
conversations, lived experience, you need that in today's society, in a world where you're comparing yourself to other people. When you find yourself in a situation where you can't compare yourself to that, and you want to find medium ground, these episodes and stuff like this is just a complete goldfield. But if you're ever in a situation where you're like me and you think the best option is that you shouldn't be here, call your mate, call your psychologist, call a psychologist. If that psychologist, if you feel that psychologist doesn't fit your mold, that's fine. There's plenty out there.
7 million.
There's 7 billion. All right. Well, it's probably not 7 billion. But
you fuck with in the smokers area of the pub.
Oh, if you're in the pub,
they're ready for a yarn.
You go find the barfly sitting next to the barrel. He's probably got a wealth of knowledge.
Someone will listen.
Someone will listen to you. But all it takes is someone to listen to you. If that's what you're holding on to, and you're thinking, "Fuck, like nobody listens to me," and you find that person that can steer you in the direction that you need to go.
Is there when I try and think about tools or things that might have, talking, would you say is the biggest and the only thing? Is there anything else?
No. So, look, talking is the biggest thing. No, not the biggest thing. It's one of the biggest things. The biggest thing is just being comfortable in your own skin. So if you can accept who you are, right? Because
good and the bad.
You accept the good and the bad. You accept that you are on this earth. No one else is going to experience the things that you experience. No one is going to know what it's like to be you ever in your life. And so when you realize that that is rarer than anything else on this planet, so if it goes you, and then from that it goes your parents, because there's only one of your parents, and then it goes your family. Once you understand that that is pretty much the most important things that you should focus on in your life, things roll on from there and things get infinitely better. Infinitely better. And external things like people caring about Taylor Swift getting married or something like that. It's like, what are you talking about? Who the fuck cares? You're not going. She's never going to invite you. She's never going to talk to you.
She loves me.
She's never going to talk to you. She's never going to invite you. What are you caring about that for? If you care about how you can control your emotion, how you can be impactful with your family and friends, more so your family, friends drop off, and that's just a way of life. Life just gets that much better. And have kids. I can't stress that enough. Like, for me personally, everyone's different, lived experience different. Meaning of life to me is giving meaning to life, and having a daughter and she's the sole reason she is on this earth is because me and my wife. And so we give meaning to her life, and you can't underestimate how important that is to a child's upbringing. And so if you're 100% present within your kid's life and you understand how awesome it is having kids, if you find the right person, I hope you do. Yeah.
One last.
Yeah.
For people on the outside, if they have people in their family that's gone through something shit, or they think, like Emily, probably your sister recognised that we want the old David back. On the outside, I don't know if you call it depression, suicidal ideation at the time, she cut through any barrier you had, and your biggest insecurity was, I don't want to be a burden on my family, I'm done.
Yeah.
She could see that and she said, I just want you back. I don't care about anything, it's you.
Yeah. And
nothing can replace you.
Yeah.
So for people who want to reach out to someone but don't know how.
Yep. Look, it's a tough one because every circumstance is different. Some people might not have their sister to tell them that. And I guess it just draws back on being comfortable with who you are. Because you're not going to have that person. You might not have that person. It can be a complete stranger. It's never going to be family.
Yeah.
It's not going to be, it could be a random conversation you have with someone and they say, hey, something doesn't seem right with you. That could send the catalyst or the fucking snowball that turns into an avalanche where you actually pull yourself up. And you go, fuck, I am not good. And it sort of brings back to what I said before, like if the mind doesn't lead, nothing else follows. So if you don't understand where you are in life or what you're feeling or you're unsure, like you have to do what it takes to understand that. Because a family member can only do so much.
Yeah.
It doesn't, if you might not have any contact, you might not even have any family. But there's services available where you've got free psychology appointments. There's
Headspace, I think.
Headspace.
Lifeline. I think you can call and there's someone on there straight away.
Trademark, like if going back to a bloke, and if you're a tradie and you're maybe you're a contractor, the Trademark has free phone calls that you can make.
Trademark.
Trademutt. So
Trademutt. MUTT.
Yes. Trademutt. So they basically they cater directly to the blue collar industry. But even if you're not blue collar industry, you can still reach out to them. But it might not be a certain service. The service is just understanding within yourself that you are struggling. And the best way to move forward with that isn't to take yourself out of the situation, but to put yourself in the situation and reach out. So that it's all I can say.
Yeah. Right. Is there anything you haven't said?
Look, you know, I'm 35 now. As I said, we could have had this chat 5 years ago, and this whole conversation would have gone a different way. And 5 years from now, this chat could go a completely different way.
Yeah.
You're not here to fucking set records. You're not here to, you know, fucking be the best person in other people's eyes. You're here to focus on yourself. And then when you can finally focus on yourself, then you can spread that onto who's important. And listen, I'll be honest, now I'm 35, that circle of who's important is tiny. And it's only going to get smaller, but
richer,
wealthier. Success isn't defined by money. It's not defined by how many hours you put into a business. It's defined by how happy you are as a person, and then how happy your family is because you're around.
Oh, yuck. You made me cry. Yeah. That's gross.
Yeah.
Cheers.
One last chink.
That's okay. All right. I'm going to hang up here because I feel like you summarised it really well.
See ya.